Right, so let's go on about to Mr. Birling. So Mr. Birling. Let's look at some key words and phrases for Mr. Birling. And we're going to do some keywords for all of them, some grade 9 terminology that you can implement into your essays and specifically linking it to socialism and capitalism. So he holds prejudices against socialists. So basically he means he holds beliefs and degrading beliefs at that about socialists. He brands them all with the same brush, if you like, it's like a saying I like to say. He basically thinks all socialists are immoral, which of course is very ironic because he is immoral, but he holds a lot of prejudices against them. Pompous. He is very stuck up. So again, it's very aligned with a typical capitalist. He's very stuck up in the way that he communicates, and he's very pompous. Great word to describe him. Obdurate. Now, I really like this word because a lot of you probably won't know it. So obdurate basically means stubborn. He's very stubborn. He's very entrenched in his beliefs. That's another good saying. Entrenched in his beliefs, like entrenched. He's entrenched in his beliefs and he refuses to change them. And we see that through how entrenched and obdurate he is with his beliefs about capitalism and his refusal to see the positives of socialism. He's paternalistic. Now, paternalistic doesn't mean like a father, because we typically say like he's paternal. That means like fatherly. But paternalistic means he restricts freedom of others who don't agree with him. Now, I love this word from Mr. Birling, paternalistic. Think about how many people he restricts if they don't agree with him. Sheila, Eric, the inspector, who of course are all socialists. So you can actually say that he is paternalistic towards socialists, which is a really, really amazing thing to say. Okay, next one. This is a really good quote. So we're going to look at 2 quotes for each character, which link to socialism and capitalism and the analysis for them. So mixed up together like bees in a hive, community and all that nonsense. And also a little top tip, guys. If you are writing in a quote, try and remember the punctuation, if you can, like the hyphen here, because that means you can actually analyse it and there's more things for you to analyse when you're writing up your essays. So paternalistic. There is a dehumanising simile. So the dehumanising simile, like bees in a hive. So it compares socialists to bees, showing his dehumanising perspective towards them and his obdurate nature. See, using that keyword. So we can see here, the fact that he's comparing them to bees, small, insignificant animals, this actually reflects how he sees socialists as insignificant. They don't contribute enough to society because, of course, socialists are favoured on that focus on people, whereas capitalists are focused on business. So think about in Mr. Birling's brain, he associates being valuable with how much money you bring in and how much value you provide to society in regards to business. So this just encapsulates his whole worldwide view of socialism. He dehumanizes them. And then you can link that to paternalistic as well. And the next one is the syntax. So syntax is word order. So that's another technique you might not know. Syntax just means the word order. So literally the way that the words are placed, what's before the other word. So it is interesting that community becomes before nonsense. So look at the syntax in the sentence. If you look at the quote, community literally comes before nonsense. So this is demonstrating how quick he is to dismiss togetherness and socialist beliefs. It's almost like he says community and then he quickly dismisses it and then talks about it being nonsense. So the syntax is actually very insightful for his opinions and his attitudes towards socialism. And that's a structure technique, guys, syntax. So you can talk about like the structure in terms of how the sentence is structured. The first one is a language technique. So I'll just give you guys a second to write that down. But this is really, really insightful about Mr. Birling being a very ignorant and obdurate capitalist. Okay, next quote. Again, if you guys haven't got that all down, you can watch this back afterwards, but I just want to make sure we get through everything in the hour. So he says, the famous younger generation who know it all, and they can't even take a joke. I love this. I love this quote. So insightful. It's in Act 3 as well. I didn't write that down, but it's in Act 3. He says that, of course, about Eric and Sheila. So he uses the patronising adjective of like, he talks about them being like the younger generation. He's describing them as the younger generation to be patronising and condescending. He aims to ridicule, that means to mock, Sheila and Eric through their adoption of socialist beliefs. His paternalistic attitudes, remember paternalistic, he restricts freedom of those who don't agree with him, is clear now as they don't align with his dehumanising capitalist beliefs. Love that bit of analysis. Really nice. And also, another little top tip, when we're talking about like an adjective, if you can kind of use a word to describe what kind of adjective it is, it just kind of enhances your analysis. The patronizing adjective. It just adds in another layer. It's a bit more of a high level thing to do. So again, it kind of shows that he dehumanizes any socialist, even if that's his own family members. He is so paternalistic, he's so obdurate that he literally can't agree with anybody who disagrees with his deeply entrenched and ignorant views of capitalism. And plosives litter his speech. Now, for any of you who don't know, a plosive is a harsh sound. So like the d, t, p sound, it's a harsh sound, and they litter his speech. So, for example, can't even take. Can't, t, that's a plosive. Take, t, and the k, that's a plosive as well. So we can say that plosives litter his speech because there's multiple plosives. It's a bit of a nicer way of saying it. And this illuminates his anger and bitterness towards them not being the archetypes of inhumane capitalists. Now, an archetype is like a perfect example. So he's actually bitter towards them not demonstrating these ignorant capitalist beliefs because they've now transcended, they kind of changed into socialist beliefs. The kind of main thing about this quote here, guys, is to really show how dehumanizing he is, how patronizing he is, and how he almost has this bitterness and aggression towards those who don't conform to his capitalist beliefs, even if they are his own children. Very, very insightful to what capitalism does to a person, and Parisi is definitely trying to demonstrate that. Throughout the whole of the play, he vilifies Mr. Birling.